Guys, this is Brian Mance with Turp Mechanic. I do not want to make this video. Keep that in mind for the duration of however long that you choose to watch this. I don't want to make it, but I feel that it's very important for me to make it. So since this is essentially my job now, I'm going to do something that I don't want to do. I'm going to talk about, or I'm going to try to answer the question, what is the best lawn fertilizer to put on a spring lawn? I'm going to keep this uncut, at least here in the beginning. I'll cut it a little bit later on. But the reason I want to address this is because since I've lived in this property, those of you who have known me for a long time and followed my channel for years, I never used to live in a neighborhood with tons and tons of neighbors everywhere. This little like suburban neighborhood has a ton of dog walkers and exercise walkers and people that drive by all the time. They've gotten to know me over the past 15 months. I have people just exercising, walking dogs. They stop every single day that I'm out here. In fact, while I'm filming videos, they stop and they come out here and they ask me questions about the lawn. A lot of times they compliment me on my lawn. Not so much a year ago when my lawn looked terrible, but certainly these days it happens all the time. Once you get past that like friendly banter and that early chit chat, a lot of these people literally ask me, there's a car coming by. A lot of these people ask me, literally the very first question out of their mouths these days, like once you get past that early banter, is, well, what do you put on the lawn first? What's the best fertilizer? What's the best thing to put on the lawn in the springtime? Now, I could go into pre-emergence and things like that, but with casual people coming up to me, I don't go that far. They're asking about fertilizers. And some of them say it by name. What is the best fertilizer? What should I put on my lawn in springtime? And they're saying that because they see a really nice looking yard. It's not the best yard in the world, but it's pretty good, and it's probably the best one on this block right now. So I usually have a small conversation with them. Now, I don't want to have this conversation on YouTube, but I know that like a crap ton of people out there who are new to tending to lawns are wondering the exact same thing. I'm filming this today is Friday, April 19th. So this is springtime for basically everybody. Not everybody, but it's really close to everybody. Calendar, it's springtime. This is when people are getting out there and they're trying to figure out how to fix their lawns after the winter, or maybe for the first time ever. So what do you put on the lawn first in spring? What's the best fertilizer to put down on the lawn in spring? There is no best fertilizer. It's the worst answer. Nobody ever wants to hear that. And I tell it to so many people. There's no best fertilizer. Every fertilizer out there is some form of nutrient that the lawn uses. Can you literally say, is an apple better than an orange? No, you can't. There's probably some scenarios when an apple might be better for you to eat than an orange. The same thing goes for fertilizers. Let me wait for this truck to pass. Every fertilizer out there has different inputs or not active ingredients, sources of nutrients, but they're all nutrients. So in the lawn needs nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That's NPK, if I could use my fingers. But it also needs a whole bunch of minor nutrients. And then, arguably speaking, it needs a ton of trace minerals. And those things are less important, but if you don't have them in your soil, then the lawn will suffer to some extent. It's a much smaller amount, so you don't really have to worry too much about it. And that's why most fertilizers, when you go out to any store, label only NPK. And if you look really closely in the back of the label, it might mention a handful of minor nutrients, but those are not usually the reason why people are buying products. Now online, you can go ahead and buy minor nutrient mixes. You can even buy trace nutrients, but I want to go show you a variety of stuff, if I can figure out how to spin my body, over there by my garage. These are some of the products. These are the products that I have in my garage. I have a few others, but categorically speaking, these are the categories of products that I have in my garage. Now, I have a long history on the Turf Organic channel trying to hold, use, research many different brands. And what you're going to see here, every single thing that you see here is a different brand. We've got Valley Ag, we got Scott's, we've got this company Revive. I found that at Home Depot. This is Soil Fit, sold on Yard Mastery. I got Down to Earth. I got Anderson's Innova, Jonathan Green, Lawn Box, Lily Miller, and EV Stone. They're all the best. I'm wearing a Yard Mastery hat. Yard Mastery has its own fertilizers. I've got 1 or 2 of those in the garage that I didn't put here because they fit into a category that I already have right here in front of my garage. So I don't want to bring out extra brands that are unnecessary. Point here is every fertilizer is fantastic for certain situations, for certain grass types, for certain times of year, for certain values. Depending on the values that you have, one product might be better than the other product. So before this video gets way too long, because I know this is going to be a long video, I literally started scripting this video and then I stopped and then I started scripting it again and then I stopped and then I was like, should I angle people towards certain brands or styles of product? And then I stopped and I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. So right now, that's why I'm ad-libbing, because I don't want this video to be me telling you, buy this one thing. It's the only one. It's the best one, because that's just not the case. I'm going to go ahead and set my camera up here on this tripod, go over here, and I'm going to slowly go back and forth through all of these products because each one is largely within its own category. And I want to slowly cover why every single product here is the best. Like literally, once you really understand what's going on in a bag of fertilizer, you can justify anything as the best. Before I do that though, for those of you who care, I use certain products here, and some of these products are really just props. I keep them on hand because lots of people use them and lots of people want to understand more about them. Every single product here I have purchased with my own money. So my biases really only have to do with my own values. I literally could probably make money like selling you any of these things. It doesn't really matter to me. As a lawn care educator here on YouTube, I could attempt to make a whole bunch of money calling something the best and then selling it to you, but I don't want to do that. I want to take the angle of I want to teach you so that you can understand what's the best for you in your situation. That way, I don't know, that way you're better off. There goes the go. See, I have lots and lots of cars and people. Nobody's walked by yet, but it happens a lot. Anyway, let's set up on the camera, on the tripod. All right, guys, I have nothing to hide. That's my address right there. You watch more of my videos, you can see the cross street intersection too. Let's start with these products. The vast majority of products that you're going to find on store shelves, Scott's, other like big box brands, the vast majority of them use 2 ingredients in their NPK mix. They use ammonium sulfate, which of course you can buy completely on its own from just about any brand. I don't want to call this a generic brand because everyone's heard of Lily Miller, but you can buy this from tons of people. You can buy this in a plain white bag with nothing written on it except for ammonium sulfate 2100, because it's all the same thing. It's like going to the store and buying flour, like just flour, all-purpose flour, all-purpose ammonium sulfate. This is a purely synthetic fertilizer. It's water soluble, so you can apply this to any lawn, any grass that is not dormant. So if it's dormant in the summer because of heat and drought, you wouldn't want to put it on. If it's dormant in the winter, late fall, early spring, you don't want to put it on. But temperature, like the air temperature and the soil temperature, don't matter. It's literally just the dormancy of the grass. If the grass is alive and growing, if it's green and growing, then you can put this on the lawn, and you don't need microbial life to transform it into any usable thing. It's just nitrogen. There's nothing there. It's purely synthetic, and it's pretty much the cheapest stuff you can buy. It's a commodity, in my opinion. It's like going to the gas station. Who really cares if you're buying gas from Chevron versus Arco? It's just gas. I use this very situationally. If I really need to push extremely fast growth in a lawn, then I'm going to use this, because if I put it on the lawn and put some water onto it, it immediately goes into the root system, and then the grass plant is immediately able to take it up. There's no magical chemistry, biological transformation of this. You're literally just putting plant available nutrients into the soil, and the water delivers it to the roots, and the roots take it up. It's almost overnight. I've never measured how fast it takes effect in my lawn, but some people out there claim that you could see a difference in your grass putting ammonium sulfate down in just a couple days. So if I ever need to push extremely fast growth, this is what I consider using. And this is what most people consider using, because it's also the cheapest stuff. Now, alternatively speaking, you've got this. Now, I'm not going to pull this bag out of the bucket, and that's because I got a hole in the bottom of the bag. But this is a bag of urea. So urea nitrogen is, some people call it organic. I don't. I call it a semi-synthetic. It's semi-organic, semi-synthetic. It's got to be manufactured. Like it's not found in nature. I suppose if your dog pees, it's putting urea nitrogen on the ground, but nobody's collecting their dog pee. So they manufacture urea nitrogen in factories, and they put it in a bag, and this is just as basic as it gets. It's not as synthetic as ammonium sulfate. In my opinion, it's in between. The thing is, it still needs microbial life to transform it into a plant available nitrogen. So this is not ever going to go on the lawn when the lawn is cold. So if the soil, we're talking about the dirt under the grass, is around 50 degrees or less, this is not really going to do anything to the lawn anytime soon, because the plants can't take it up. The plants can take this up at 50 degrees or 45 degrees, so long as the plant isn't dormant, because the biological life in the soil doesn't come into, it doesn't come into play. I've said this on the channel before. You put a sandwich on the counter, it's going to start going bad in about a day, probably less. But if you put the sandwich in the fridge, it's going to stay good and edible for a long time. And that's because in the refrigerator at 38, 39, 40 degrees, all of the microbial life is not active. It's sleeping. So the sandwich stays good. It's the same thing in the soil. Because microbial life and bacteria don't have to break this down, the plants can just take it right up. But the plants do need bacteria in the lawn, microbes in the lawn, to make this plant available. So if you put this down in cold soil, it's just not going to do anything. Now, having said that, this is another good product because it's super cheap. In the manufacturing process, this is frequently coated. So in the prill making process, this is coated in other things like sulfur or humic. It's coated, or it can be manufactured in a way that it's like urea methylene or urea triazone. It can go down into a liquid product. And basically through manufacturing, they can make urea so that it is deliverable quickly or slowly, with a delayed effect or an immediate effect. But the immediate effect always relies on soil microbial life. So all that's to say is urea and ammonium sulfate are the most common ingredients put into widely distributed bags of fertilizer that you're going to see in lawns everywhere. Now, if you literally are attempting to buy a fertilizer for spring, then temperature matters. If your soil temperature is low because it's early spring, then this is going to be better than this, because this is just going to sit on the lawn waiting for the lawn to warm up. And while it's waiting on the lawn, the urea or the nitrogen within this urea is slowly going to evaporate. And evaporate is not the right word. It actually gases off. The nitrogen in here sits on the lawn. If it's not being used and it's not watered deeply into the soil, it literally starts going up into the atmosphere. So eventually this might get down into the soil and the soil warms up, but a lot of the nitrogen is gone. So if you apply this too early in the season, this is a terrible option. But if you apply it a little bit later in the spring, it could be the best option. It could be. Now, let's move into some other categories. This right here is something purely organic. This is alfalfa meal. This, similar to the urea fertilizer, will not do anything to the grass until the grass is warm or the soil is warm enough for microbial life to break the product down and release the nitrogen as a plant available form. However, it's the best fertilizer of them all if you care about root development without the overstimulation is what I was going to say, the over application of phosphorus. So typically when we want roots to develop, so if we're putting down sod or seed, then we're going to be putting down a starter fertilizer. This is Scott's starter fertilizer built for seeding. So this uses a lot of urea in it, but it's also got phosphorus in there, and the phosphorus is going to be pushing root development. Let me move because I'm not 23 anymore. The phosphorus is going to be pushing root development in the grass, and that is pretty helpful for seed or sod because it needs to be plant available immediately so that the plant can actually use it to put on roots. But once the rooting has really taken place, we don't want to over-apply phosphorus to the lawn because it's essentially a contaminant for the environment to be over-applying phosphorus. Not to mention, if you have too much available phosphorus in the lawn, some of the other nutrients that are in the lawn become less available to the plant. Like the plant can't take it up. So you don't want to over-apply this stuff. Now, this product right here, this is a seed starter or a starter fertilizer. You can get a whole bunch of different starter fertilizers. Here's another one. This is Jonathan Green's. Starter fertilizers almost always have more phosphorus, but the main difference between these two right here is this one has something called mesotrione in it. Mesotrione is essentially a chemical that you put down. You can buy it standalone, all by itself. So if you're putting grass seed down and you put mesotrione on it, it's going to stop a lot of weeds from germinating in the seed patch that would have germinated otherwise. So this product right here has mesotrione in it. This product doesn't. Otherwise, they're largely the same. But this product is going to cost more because it's got that extra additive. Now, typically when you put mesotrione down on seeds, the mesotrione is going to stop a lot of the weeds from germinating, but not all of them. Some are still going to come through. And mesotrione really starts wearing off after 3 to 4 weeks. So that means that if you only put this down at time of seeding, that a month later, all of the weeds are going to start germinating, and you're going to have to apply a weed killer later on anyway. So does that make this best or better than this? Jonathan Green doesn't have it in it. It's cheaper, but if both of them, you're going to have to come back and spray a weed killer on it 2 months later, 2.5 months later, then the extra money that you're spending on this is definitely worth it for some people, but not for others. And I'm not trying to say one brand versus the other. There's like a million different starter fertilizers out there, and they're all similar. If you look at the back of them, virtually every starter fertilizer out there uses urea, a mixture of urea and probably not synthetic ammonium sulfate, but some of them might. But very, very few of them are going to have mesotrione in it. But if that matters to you, then this is a great option. Alfalfa meal, however, even though it's a 0.5 in the phosphorus category, like you could put 100 pounds of this down, and what would that be? Like half of a pound of it is phosphorus. You're not putting this down for phosphorus, which you normally find in starter fertilizers. You're putting this down because alfalfa meal has triacontanol in it. It's a natural source of triacontanol, and triacontanol is a growth stimulant that alfalfa meal produces that when it's applied to the lawn, it actually pushes growth into the root system or the underground network of development, but it doesn't use phosphorus to do it. So in theory, you could put down any product whatsoever that has a little bit of phosphorus because you don't want to put too much. And then if you put alfalfa meal down, then it's going to push root development. Not only that, but if you've got an established lawn and you want to thicken up or improve the density, the root mass density, then alfalfa meal is a great way to go. You can get a little bit of fertilizer, a lot of organic matter because it's a natural product. It's plant-based. So everything going down is plant-based nutrients and organic matter. This product is going to push root development of any lawn, whether it be new, old, existing, somewhere in between. This is actually one of my favorite fertilizers of them all to put on the lawn. Now, usually when I apply this, what is this? Is this the powder or the granular? You can usually get this. This brand right here puts this in gigantic 40-pound bags. There's a bunch of other brands out there that put them in different size bags. Sometimes it's a powder. Sometimes it's kind of like little clumps. I tend to buy this brand in the big bag because it comes together a little bit more clumped together. But sometimes you can also find it in bags of organic fertilizers. Now, this is something I picked up at my local Home Depot. I had never seen it before, never heard of the company before, but if I look at it, it's a 511. This is made from, predominantly, according to the back of the bag, chicken poo. Dehydrated poultry waste is what it says. So that's the primary source of nitrogen. You get a tiny little bit of phosphorus, tiny little bit of potassium. There's also a touch of iron in here. I don't think anyone's buying this bag because of the iron. In almost all cases, granular iron does very little to the lawn. If you want the iron to affect your lawn in any way right out of the gate, you're going to want to put down a liquid. So any dry granular, that iron is mostly going to become completely plant available in about 5 to 10 minutes once it hits the soil. It oxidizes extremely fast. So the point here is organic products that are in this category, you can literally put down organic products like this. You could put down a Milorganite. A Milorganite is a 6,4,0, 4% phosphorus in there. So you could put down a Milorganite if you literally want the phosphorus for seed starting. That's a fantastic product to put down in the early part of spring. I've used it many times on this channel. I've talked about it a lot. I don't use it in my own lawn very often anymore, however, because I have a full lawn. Like it's all thick. I don't need that extra phosphorus. But if I do want to push that extra rooting in the lawn that's existing, alfalfa meal is the way to go. Organics, this is basically a Milorganite alternative because it's using composted chicken poo as opposed to people poo in Milorganite, and you don't get as much phosphorus in that. Now, organics, so natural sources of nitrogen, natural sources of NPK and minor nutrients, are very slow to act. This product right here, if you have the value set of wanting to use a organic OMRI listed fertilizer on your lawn, then this could be the best also. This right here is from the Lawn Box company. Everything in this bag is OMRI, OMRI listed, but it's very fast acting because the main source of nitrogen in this bag is not plant-based. It's actually water soluble, sodium nitrate. It's very difficult to just go off to the store and buy sodium nitrate all by itself. I've attempted it and I was blocked by restrictions. Some of you might be able to do that. It's high on the salt index, but it's in this bag. Sodium nitrate is something that they mine and they don't have to process it the same way that they do urea or ammonium sulfate. So it's labeled for use in organic situations. It's water soluble, so you could put something like this down earlier in the season, but it also has some soybean meal in here, and everything else in this product is labeled for organic use as well. So if I want to push fast growth, but I don't want to use any sort of synthetic or manufactured product, then something like this works really well, and I would consider that to be the best option. You literally could put this product down on a spring lawn that was like 50 degrees, like the soil in the lawn was 50 degrees, and the sodium nitrate in this would immediately take effect. It would start pushing your grass. And then after that sodium nitrate kind of wears off, it's been used up, then the soybean meal that's also in this product is going to start taking over for a little bit later in the season once soil temperatures have warmed up to the point where all of that microbial life is really, really active. I've been using this product for a few years now, and I still really like it. Is it the best? I don't know. It's going to be the best for some people, but not everybody. Now, I can take this and find another best product. This right here is something called Soil Fit. Now, I've already moved everything in front of it, so I'm just going to put it down. It's a boring looking bag. Soil Fit I've been calling it a hybrid product for a while now. Soil Fit is made by, I don't even know who it's made by, but it's sold on the Yard Mastery website. And it's a hybrid product because it uses a whole bunch of organic ingredients for its nitrogen sources, but it also uses ammonium sulfate. Oh, hey.
Can I have a pizza?
Yeah, pull it out. Everyone can. Help them warm it up. But it also uses ammonium sulfate. So where's my ammonium sulfate at? Here it is right here. So if you want a hybrid system, you could start putting down Soil Fit. Soil Fit is an 803. So you could stick it on the lawn. It's going to immediately take effect. So if you need a fast growth push or an early season, early spring when the soils is still cold growth push, Soil Fit will give that to you. But it's also got natural ingredients. And here off the top of my head, I can't remember the feather meal and soybean meal. So feather meal is, I want to say it's a 1300 product on its own. Soybean meal is like a 712 on its own. So you're getting a bunch of immediately usable usable ammonium sulfate, and then you're getting the extended release portion of the nutrition is coming from soybean and feather meal. Tiny little extra bit of sulfate of potash in there to get the 3%, like that potassium number up. But I would call this one of the best fertilizers for the very early season, the very early part of spring, because you're not getting extra phosphorus, which a lot of people don't need in the lawn. You're getting organic, naturally sourced nitrogen for a little bit mid to late spring usage. And you're getting an awful lot of organic matter stuck into the lawn. Because if this bag was only ammonium sulfate, it would be a 2100. But instead, it's only 8% nitrogen. So more than half of this bag is something other than ammonium sulfate. It's going to be the organic matter found in feather meal and soybean meal. It's a really excellent hybrid product. But is it the best? I don't know. Maybe not for everybody. Probably not for everybody. For pure organic usage, this Soil Fit product has some soybean meal in it, and it's designed, it's packaged to be spread on the lawn. But this right here, this is Anderson's Innova product, which is a 712. And remember I said soybean meal, just straight up soybean meal is a 712. This is 712. This is only soybean meal. The difference is it is manufactured and processed to be a granular instead of a powder. So it's very easy to put into a granular spreader and spread it all over the lawn. Now, is this going to be the best for spring? It's certainly going to be one of the better products for spring, and it's probably going to be the best for a lot of people out there, especially those people who don't want to push or don't need to push early season growth. A lot of times you're going to be pushing early season growth in the lawn, putting these synthetics down on the lawn to get it to spread out early in the year to cover up dirt from like winter damage. Maybe you're going to be leveling the lawn, you're top dressing it with soil or compost or sand. You need to push that extra growth. If you don't need to do that, then this actually is a fantastic, perhaps the best fertilizer for spring, because you can put it down at any point in the early part of spring, and it's never going to be used by the lawn until the lawn is ready to use it. So once the soil warms up, it breaks the product down, and then the grass starts asking for those nutrients, then it's going to use it. But you don't ever have to water it in. Early parts of spring, a lot of people don't have their sprinklers set up, so you can't water some of these products in. This, you don't really have to. You just kind of wait for Mother Nature to do what it does. And you never have to think about it again. You're getting a tiny bit of phosphorus, and you're getting some potassium, maybe not quite enough for the entire season, but at least you're getting some. If you're putting down ammonium sulfate, you're not getting any. Over the course of an entire season, you probably should be getting probably twice the amount of nitrogen as the amount of potassium, and then probably twice the amount of potassium as the amount of phosphorus. But that comes into play for season-long programs. Early part of spring, we really just want to get that lawn going. A lot of times it just has to do with filling in bare spots in the lawn and pushing extra root development during the most natural root development part of the year. Grass, every form of grass naturally puts on its bulk root development in early spring. Some of that root development dies off in the middle of summer, which is a natural process. And then it comes back a little bit in the fall and then dies off heavy in the winter. Springtime rolls around and the cycle repeats. During that root development period, we want to push rooting, but we don't always need excess phosphorus. And that's where the alfalfa meal comes into play and other biostimulants out there like kelp or cytokinins come into play. And that kind of takes me to the last thing that I got right here, which you can't even see because it's directly behind me. This is my EV Stone product. This is a 733. They call it a citrus fruit tree food. This is better used in the garden. Like this exact bag is better used in the garden because it's not granulized. It's basically a powder. So it's going to be very difficult to put on a lawn. But the product ingredients include blood meal, feather meal. Remember we had feather meal in Soil Fit here. Bone meal provides that phosphorus in there. Dried chicken manure that we've got right here. You got bat guano. Alfalfa meal is in here. Kelp meal and sulfate of potassium. The kelp meal is in this product. You can also buy kelp completely on its own. I have liquid kelp in there. I also have cytokinins, which is basically like if you take kelp and you extract only the cytokinins from the kelp meal, you can put that on the lawn, and that's going to help push root development without actually adding organic matter or without adding phosphorus into the lawn. Kelp, or especially the cytokinins that are found within kelp, direct growth that all of the grass plants want to put on, and they direct it down to the subterranean, down to the under the soil level area, roots and rhizomes, and to some extent stolons that run above the ground on top of the soil, but below the leaf canopy. If you want to push the foundation of your grass, then the cytokinins found in kelp or just straight up kelp are going to do that. So in theory, if you're looking for the best spring fertilizer, then a mixture of kelp and alfalfa meal, both of those products are going to push root development without pushing any top growth or very minimal top growth whatsoever. Once you get into the seeding and sodding process that happens a lot of times during the spring, then you do need a little bit of phosphorus, and that's where starter fertilizers come into play. Some of these things can be the best additive to the alfalfa meals and the kelp fertilizers or the organics because they're going to give immediate plant available phosphorus to the rooting sprouts as opposed to waiting for soil biology to create soil available phosphorus from the soil. So within the soil, there is phosphorus, but most of it's not plant available. Microbial life in the soil has to make it plant available. So in the situation of a brand new grass plant, like a baby grass plant, you can't wait for that. It needs it immediately. And that's where these starter fertilizers come into play. But if you're not putting seed down, then you don't need it. And that's where everything else comes into play. So what is the best fertilizer for spring? There isn't the best. And because I've talked for who knows how long, 25, 30 minutes straight here, that's the reason why I don't want to make this video. Because the vast majority of people starting this video have already stopped watching because they want me to say, this is the best. This is the one that you should buy. And if I do that, the other people that say, that's not the best for me, and these are the reasons why, they are correct. I cannot say, and nobody can say, which one is the best. It is entirely situational. No matter how much I want to just say one of these or one of the thousands of others that I could find at a store somewhere and shove in front of you and make the case that that one's the best, I'm not going to do it. Now, I have attempted to start identifying some of the best options for a variety of somewhat common situations, and I'm putting that into a blog post. I'm linking to that from the description below. So if you're still watching this video, please go take a look at it. It's like book length because it's that complicated of a topic, and no matter how long I've made this video, the topic is still been dumbed down and shrunk down to this tiny little video that's probably been quite boring, but there's so much more information that could be said on everything, including other things that I didn't even touch on. I'll leave you with this. Grass needs nitrogen, mostly to grow. Next, it needs potassium to grow. If you got 4 parts nitrogen, you need roughly 2 parts potassium. And then you need roughly 1 part phosphorus. Synthetic fertilizers like urea and ammonium sulfate don't help the soil at all. They just really push immediate growth in the grass. And that's fine situationally. But fundamentally, I think that we need to focus on the soil. It's like building a house on a concrete slab versus building a house on sand. I want good soil in the lawn. And if I focus on the soil, if I feed the soil, then the grass is probably going to do good over time. Take a look at the resources that I have linked down in the description below. Buy anything that you see here or nothing that you see here. I don't care. I can literally make money selling any of these products, as can any other person on YouTube or on the web. It's not about telling you which product to buy. For me, it's about trying to get you to learn about the products so that you can actually choose. If you're looking at the store shelf and you see one, you see the other, which one do you think you should buy and why? Anyone who can answer why is going to have a better lawn. I tend to use the lowest nitrogen input that I possibly can on my lawn. For me, I actually don't use any, like the most common product that I use today, I haven't even shown you. I literally could show you and I could tell you it's the best one and I could tell you to go buy it and I can make a lot of money doing that. But I'm literally not going to show you what it is in this video because this is not a sales video. Use the resources. You'll figure it out if you really want to. And if you want to learn more about the nitrogen in the lawn, which is typically the biggest nutrient in any of these fertilizers, then watch the video up here. This is what most people don't really understand about nitrogen, at least as it pertains to fertilizing grass.